Happy New Year. Welcome to the Science Plus Love Equals Cure podcast, the STXBP1 10-minute monthly update. This is podcast number 10. I'm Charlene Sen-Rigby, president and co-founder of the STXBP1 Foundation, and I'm also mom to STXer Juno and her big brother, Luca. To kick off this year, I interviewed Dr. Ingo Helbig from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to learn what's happening with the END Center and the STARR study. Let's listen in. Well, Ingo, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Charlene. It's great to see you too.
Happy New Year. Thanks for doing this interview with me. So it's already the beginning of 2024, and the last time,
you're right.
time is flying. The last time that I interviewed you was actually at the beginning of 2023 when the END Center was announced. And so that was a pretty exciting and huge announcement for CHOP and UPenn. Can you share an update with our families?
Yeah, it's actually, I can't believe that this has only been like a year ago. So this feels like an eternity. So the END Center, the Center for Epilepsy and Neurodevelopmental Disorders at CHOP and Penn, is a newly funded center that really focuses on bringing translational efforts to the genetic epilepsy. So really kind of working from therapy development in gene therapy, antisense oligonucleotides to clinical studies. And over the last year, we've really kind of built up quite a comprehensive program. And we're kind of in charge of the clinical research. And this is what we kind of wanted to talk about today, which is our kind of STARR study, which is the clinical natural history study that we're kind of leading jointly with you guys, with the foundation.
That's great. Well, let's move to talk about STARR.
Yeah.
So STARR study was just launched in July of 2023. And so that was pretty recent. And maybe you can give us an update. I know you had some slides, so let me share those really quickly.
Yeah, so the STARR study is our kind of multi-center natural history study. And I think what I wanted to just kind of talk about today is just how exciting this is that we have this study up and running and how critical this really is to kind of move everything forward. Charlene, if you don't mind, just kind of click into the next slide. So our study is really a multi-center natural history study. And I'll kind of talk about in a minute what a natural history study is, but we have 4 sites right now, which is going to be from Colorado Children's, Texas Children's, Weill Cornell, and us here at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And what we're doing right now is we're kind of examining and studying the clinical features of STXBP1 in the same way that we would do this in a clinical trial. And this is what people call clinical trial readiness. So we're already kind of pretending that we were in a clinical trial, have all the measurements ready, that once a medication or once a gene therapy or once an antisense oligonucleotide comes around, we can really kind of put this into practice and work with this. Here is basically our numbers. So I asked our team just to put together the numbers of participants that we had already enrolled in our study. And as of January, we've seen 41 individuals with STXBP1. And all these individuals had very detailed assessments. They had a very kind of large array of clinical measurements. They had an EEG. They had assessments by physical therapists, developmental pediatricians, and occupational therapists. And if you just kind of go to our next slide.
Well, you just had one other point here around the total number of individuals, which is very exciting to me because, our goal, right? Our goal, I think, had been to see between 50 and 100 participants in the first year.
And I apologize, I had my own icon over the numbers there. This is like, no, so this is the interesting part. So this is, especially when we think about like drug trials and moving forward, it's always important that studies are not just done at a single site, but they're happening at many places. So this becomes reproducible. And I think this is the exciting part here, is that we have our entire trial network, and we've seen, now almost 70 patients or 70 individuals with STXBP1 across the US. All right, this is a busy slide, but this is busy on purpose, and this is just a very long list of evaluations that our kind of families go through. And there's actually three different kind of parts here. This is where we have different colors. So on the left, we kind of ask our families to kind of complete a number of what we call caregiver surveys. And those are not just random surveys, those are very specific clinical measurements. Then on the day of the appointment, we have very detailed clinical evaluations. So on the right, you can see these kind of the schedule on what this would look like. So we have an individual that kind of sees our research team, then gets an evaluation by development pediatricians, occupational therapy, a specialized quantitative EEG, physical therapy, an evaluation by our team, and then a very comprehensive developmental testing with all these kind of tests that you can see in the middle, the Bailey's test, the GMFM. And those are really kind of measurements that people use in clinical trials that we then can flip over to actual clinical studies once we have the trials ready. And then, of course, afterwards, we have to kind of get this all together and analyze the data. So here's one important thing. And this is something that we're very, very kind of proud of. And the idea is that we're not only looking at young individuals with STXBP1, but we actually have a substantial numbers of patients in their teens and even, a large number of individuals who are adult. And this is really important because this is our next frontier. This is what we have to work on, how STXBP1 presents when our STXers grow up. And the nice thing is really that our study represents the entire age range.
I am particularly excited about this, Ingo, because as you've seen from our census data that we've been working on from the foundation and STXBP1 Global Connect around the world, 12% of our patients are over 18. And so getting to actually have a substantial number of them represented is just very exciting.
Exactly. And Shalene, I remember we've been talking about this for the last 5 years, and this is really that we can cover this as well. And then maybe as a final step, I think what families sometimes ask us is, where should they go or how should they get in contact? And this is your answer here, that you have the emails of the different sites. So this is basically us in Philadelphia, Texas Children's, Colorado Children's, Wilcott Cornell. And then what I find fascinating is that the foundation actually kind of helps families kind of make this trip out to their closest site and to be part of this.
And Ingo, a question that some families might have is, I was seeing several years ago at CHOP, I went to the NGen clinic, or I went to Colorado Children's Clinic, 2 years ago when the clinic opened for STXBP1. Am I part of the STARR study? What differentiates being in STARR versus being seen in the clinic?
So actually is quite a big difference. And I think that's a very good question. And thank you for asking this. So the answer is probably not, because being involved in STARR means that you kind of were at a site for an entire day or sometimes even 2 days and underwent an entire day of testing. And this is why a natural history study is different from a clinic visit. And this is the difference between 1 hour or 2 hours versus an entire day, where we really kind of generate lots of research data that we need to really kind of fill the map of clinical features with STXBP1.
Great. So I think that's a call to action, hopefully, for many of our families. As you saw from the data that Ingo presented, there are 70 STXers who have already been seen in clinic, but we really want to get to that 100 number. It's really important for us to build that data set, and you saw that there's room at all age cohorts in terms of us looking for patients. Ingo, I had just one more or two more questions for you, which is what do you see as the biggest questions for STXBP1 from a science standpoint, and how do you think we can address those?
So I'll maybe narrow down this question a little bit more. Can I say, what are the questions that we can answer with STARR? Yeah. And I think this is actually a very, very exciting field right now, because as you know, 5 years ago, people were kind of scared looking at STXBP1 as a potential target for therapies because the clinical features were just so poorly understood. I think what we're kind of going to see in the next 1 or 2 years is that we get a very good handle on what a typical developmental trajectory is for our STXers, what is kind of in line with maybe 90% of our individuals, what is unusual, and how this is really kind of been assessed through standardized measurements, so we can see like a 10% difference. So to make this short, what we're going to see is really what a small difference means in terms of measurements, but then also for our patients, because this is what we're aiming for in trials.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think this is going to be really inspiring for our families. Thanks for spending time with me this morning.
Absolutely. And the sites are open and we're waiting for you. Yeah.
All right, Ingo, take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So much happening at CHOP and with STXBP1. All right, well, let's call it a wrap for today, and I will see you next month. Thanks.